Welcome to another episode of the Hazard Class Podcast. This is the podcast where I get to ask my stupid questions to some of the smartest people in and around the world of emergency response. My guest this week is a battalion chief hailing from North Carolina. He's the owner of Insight Fire Training and probably the expert of experts in all things thermal imaging cameras on the planet Earth. It's my pleasure to speak with this week Battalion Chief Andy Starnes. Andy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate to pick your brain, the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit today. So as is the format of the show, we open it up with our wheel of stupid questions. This is an opportunity for us to drive home the point that asking questions is good, even if they're stupid. If you point them at the right people, you can get some pretty good results. So we'll pop into that. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, time to hit the wheel of stupid questions. We'll see what we get today. We'll see if we haven't had a repeat yet. We'll see if we get one. Okay, the first repeat. Mr. Andy Starnes, do you believe in aliens?
Oh, of course. I go outside every day and see them. There are all kind of crazy people on this planet. I don't know where they came from.
What about the people that come from the stars? Have you ever had a UFO experience?
No, but I sure have some unidentified encounters that I still can't figure out. So I just call them aliens. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of hoping. I'm looking at the stars, hoping to see one day, but I haven't had one yet. But
Elon Musk might figure it out for us by the time rocking chair in a nursing home, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's hop into it. Andy Starnes, the expert of experts when it comes to all things thermal imaging. Let's start from the very beginning, though. Why the fire service?
My father was a volunteer firefighter, volunteer fire chief, and he worked full time for a company called AT&T. You're familiar with them, obviously. And he also ran a farm, so he was very busy. And then when he would come home, his free time was at the volunteer firehouse. So my way to hang out with Dad was get in the car and go to the fire station. So from a very early age, while they were having meetings, I was jumping off of tailboards on trucks. We'd play that game Lava. You can't touch the floor. We'd jump from one tailboard to the other tailboard in the back of this old building. And they would have fundraisers, and I would work at the fundraisers like barbecues and fish fries as a kid. And became a junior firefighter at age 13, got all my certifications by age 16, fought my first fire between 16 and 17 years of age, and got hooked. And then got out of high school, went to college, and then in between there, my dad was a national known instructor for the fire service, and I met Alan Brunacini, who was the former chief of Phoenix Fire Department, God rest his soul, and he offered me a position as an intern for Phoenix Fire Department. I was like 18 years old, and he said, "What you gonna do with your life?" I said, "Well, I'll go to college and try to get on the fire department." He goes, "Well, if you get 1 year of your college done, I'll get you an internship with Phoenix Fire Department." I'm like, "Sir, I'm in Podunk, North Carolina, Nowheresville. That's not going to happen." He goes, "Well, I think I can pull some strings." And true to his word, after a year of my college, my dad drove me from North Carolina to Arizona, then flew home, left me with my car. And then I worked at the Phoenix Fire Training Academy during the day. I lived at Fire Station at 40 at night. That's where I learned about what they do to rookies.
Wow.
I learned there. Wow. And then my dad flew out back in August and drove me home. And I kept trying different departments to get hired. I got hired by Charlotte Fire Department at age 22 after I finished my associate's degree and got my EMT. And then from 22 to age 48, I served with the Charlotte Fire Department. I retired as a battalion chief last October. Did 25 years, 226 days and some change, and walked out the door 2 years early because I have a very busy life outside of the fire service, and I have a family. I have a wife and daughter, and my wife has some health problems. My daughter has an amazing future in front of her. She's just turned 15, and I wanted to be around for that. So the last 7 or 8 years, I've worked 2 full-time jobs and missed every Christmas. I've missed most birthdays. And now I travel a lot, but when I'm home, like I am right now, I'm home for 9 straight days. And I have a pension I can draw off of. My family has benefits. And, doing the business that we do, it's, allows us to do extra, but it is a way for me to serve. And I have a large number of instructors now. My wife is a full-time employee for the business. And we have 12 guys teaching regularly. And then I have about a cadre of extra 10 or so that are adjuncts that we're working with. And then we do manufacturer work. We train 3 out of the 5 major manufacturers. We wrote the first collegiate certification for firefighters through Western Kentucky University and peer-reviewed the Kentucky Thermal Institute. We tested and designed cameras in partnership with manufacturers. We train internationally. Just got back from Poland about 3 or 4 days ago. And we donate a large amount of money back to help firefighters, whether it's conferences, whether it's behavioral health resources. I'm a board member on a nonprofit called 5 Alarm Task Force, where we donate money to firefighters who've had tragic things happen to them or their families. My motto is I work in the dark. So I help people with either thermal imaging cameras to see the problem, fix the problem, or I work between here and here, the head and the heart, which is the longest journey, 14 inches, right? So that's what I do. And I'm very happy at it. I feel since I've retired, no offense to the fire department, my health has gotten better.
Yeah, bet that.
Yeah, I'm much better off, and I'm thankful that I can, knock on wood, hopefully have a few more years left in me. I'll be 50 years old next year, and I work with younger people, so I have to fight the aging battle and go to the gym. And my motto is, I'll do everything you do, and then I'll go die in the shower where you can't see me. Right? Yeah. So it's a blast. I love learning. Just like why I was excited to do this, because you don't hear people asking about hazmat and TICs, and there's a lot of misnomers about those two. Yeah. So I was looking forward to that. So I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure. I had questions as you were talking, so I want to go back a thing. So when you took this opportunity to work with Phoenix, what were you doing?
At 19 years old, I'm not really sure. I can tell you I'm thankful that I didn't get hired by the fire department when I was 19, because I would probably been promptly fired within a year, the way I was behaving, because I was just a walking hormone at that age. Yeah. But what I did was I worked at the training academy during the day, and they found stuff for me to do. If you remember the Oklahoma City tragedy, the bombing that occurred, that's when USAR and stuff really started coming on the map. And Phoenix had a large cache of equipment, and they had their own urban search and rescue team. And part of my responsibilities was inventorying that equipment. I did basic hey boy stuff. I cleaned stuff. I helped out with recruit stuff. I made deliveries. I basically got to work around the academy and watch what was happening, learn about their recruit process, their hiring process, their training process. And then I went to Fire Station 40 at night, and they expect me to get up and run calls. Well, that didn't work out too well. And after a couple of nights of me sleeping while they were running calls, they decided that they were going to show me that I couldn't live there rent free. So there were some interesting things that occurred to me. Like I woke up one morning to this sound, beep, beep, and they were straddling me with 2 pads from, the defib.
Oh my goodness. They had a
mask on, and they had everything. They're like, clear. And I'm like, whoa. They said, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody else is up and working. We thought you were dead.
Oh, man. Wake up call, huh?
Oh, yeah, they did all kind of stuff, but that's the only one I can share with you publicly without having to write down a disclaimer statement, right?
Yeah.
Make sure this thing's plugged in. Okay. But yeah, that's that was a really cool learning experience for me. And I grew up in a volunteer department, so I'm working in a large department in a big city, and culture shock was definitely a word for me. So it was really amazing, and I'm still grateful for that experience and what the Brunacini family did for me.
Yeah. So those years would have been what, mid 90s? Is that right?
95.
Oh, right on. So how do you go from your early experiences into the fire department to really diving into technologically heavy fire department involvement, right? Like a 90s firefighter, they were pretty resistant, in my understanding, to adopting technology like this. So now you go from your experience early on. Yeah, still, yeah. But you go from this experience early on in the 90s to now being one of the foremost experts in this field. How does that happen? Why thermal imagers?
Well, the danger in the word expert implies that you know what you're doing. So for me, I consider myself a student. So when I use the word subject matter expert, this is the phrase I like to use. And someone else taught me this. If you want to be a subject matter expert, you got to make the subject matter. Okay. It doesn't mean that if I know it really well, that makes me an expert. What I pride my guys and ourselves in is knowing the product, but knowing the people better and being able to relate that to them. There are a lot of people way smarter than me that can explain this infrared science and the intricacies of the camera and how it works. But we are one of the few organizations in the world that can tell you how to use that camera, what it will do, what it won't do, because we burn with cameras. We do about 100 live fire evolutions a year. So we destroy some stuff. And we see what the flaws are, the benefits and all that. But how I got into it is the same way I got into fire service, through my dad. About mid-20s, him and a friend, Chief Sean Oak, started an organization called Project Kill the Flashover because they both had sons in the fire service. And they were frustrated with watching these line of duty deaths occur where it seemed like we were doing a broken record. Firefighter would die, same contributing factors, same thing, no change. So they started an organization to focus on fire behavior, helping mostly smaller departments, combination volunteers. And the three concepts they focused on was tactical air management, thermal imaging, and enhanced water using like additives and foams and things of that nature. And they had no thermal imaging guy. And by default, they had a company called ISG that got bought out by Scott Safety that networked with my dad and Sean and all them. And we met this wonderful, amazing man named Bobby Kyle. Bobby Kyle was part owner of ISG. He's a multimillionaire. You'd never know it. He wears a cowboy hat and coveralls and drives a Dodge truck. Mm-hmm. He's just the most humblest, salt-of-the-earth guy you ever meet. But he would drive around his truck and his trailer and support our events, bring equipment. He would run thermocouples before anybody knew what thermocouples were. He would run them up into our buildings. He would film the stuff. And he taught me from the very beginning, like words like emissivity and, what difference between a long-wave infrared camera was and some of the other ones. Amazing man. He was able to relate things in a way that just made things simple for me. And I took that model from him and was learning from him and other people for that 5 years I was doing that until, keep in mind, I was doing all this for free, never got paid. I was hanging sheetrock in a house. We would do non-1403 applied science research burns. In other words, we'd take an acquired structure and we put real fuels in it. We'd wire it, set everything up and burn it. And we'd make entry in it, record it. We'd have all our I's dotted and T's crossed. And that was my dad and Sean Oak and all the partners that were in that. And I was hanging sheetrock in the house, getting ready to burn it, making it safe when I fell through a floor and ripped my knee in half. And I found out there's this thing called a patella tendon. You need that, by the way. I had a full rupture. Oh, wow. And it almost disabled me. It took me out for 6.5 months, and I was going to get 18% disability if I didn't come back to work. And my wife said, hey, love you, appreciate you, but we can't live without you and can't live on 18% disability. I'll support you if you want to do this, but you need to make it legal. So the whole reason you and I are sitting here having this conversation is something really bad happened to me. And I was forced to create a company to protect my family. And when I did that, Jay, I learned that everybody else who works in this industry, like when you talk about hazmat, they have a ton more education than firefighters have. And I thought to myself, these people who inspect buildings and look at roofs and look for insulation gaps have 32 to 96 hours of training. And the best I'm seeing firefighters get is, here's how you turn it on. Read that little number in the bottom right-hand corner. Red's hot and you can't see through glass. Have a nice day. And I said, there's something inherently wrong here. So I went to thermography school and started getting my certifications in industrial certifications. And I translated that and wrote that into a firefighter-based curriculum. And that's where that rabbit hole Alice in Wonderland journey started. And it's still going, by the way. Matter of fact, this book is a level 1 certification book right here. That's wow. It. That's 32 hours before you're allowed to hold a camera and working as an industrial professional. You have to pass this $2,200 course, and then you have to maintain that certification to be a professional. I mean, this is thicker than the Essentials Manual, and this is on one topic. Mm-hmm. And firefighters think, oh, well, it's just turn it on, turn it off. I'm like, no, it ain't even close. So I use this kind of like you use the ERG guidebook. Turn the page you need. I'm like, what was that again? Yeah. So, and this is level 1, not level 2, not level 3, not optical gas imaging, not specialized. This is basic infrared knowledge. So if you want to know where it all started, that's where it started. Where is it going? A lot further. So We're taking these concepts that have been around for a long time and translating them into firefighter speak.
Wow. So talk to me about like the progression of technology when it comes to end users in thermal imaging cameras. Obviously, when we first started, even me being in the fire service, a decade, it's been a massive transition from, not only size, but clarity and resolution, all the things.
Sure.
But talk to me about that transition and kind of what you see going forward.
Hang on, I'll help you with that. I'll give you a visual.
Yeah.
I got some interesting toys you'll appreciate. I collect cameras, right? All right. So this is a K9E Talisman. This is 1998.
Yellow Submarine.
Yeah, that's right. Yellow Submarine. Yeah. That's what I call it. And it has a pistol grip you can put on it too, but you got to hold it with two hands. You look through that. Okay. You could actually put AA batteries in here if you wanted.
Oh, wow.
Okay. This is still in service on 2 fire departments in the United States right now that I know of.
Whoa.
So when you say the progression, unfortunately, we have not progressed. That whole statement people saying we're unimpeded by progress.
Yeah.
We're not unimpeded by progress. We're unimpeded by arrogance and ignorance. There are a lot of departments out there that have multi-million-dollar equipment stations, and they still think this is okay, but they don't have a 25-year-old cell phone. Yeah. So when you say progression, look at the size and the weight of this thing. I got one over there that weighs 12 pounds. You put it around your neck. Looks like a shoebox. You think about the Carnes Iris that you put on the helmet that weighed a lot. And we went all the way to this. My company helped design this with Seek Thermal. This outperforms some big cameras. And it's the size of a cell phone. And I can't get credit for this. I just helped with the design and burning it. The people who designed it, Seek Thermal, the guy behind it, Bill Parrish, he's brilliant. You go and look at his team and what they've done. That's where we progressed. He took all of his knowledge from he built the sensor for the Patriot missile, right?
Oh, and wow.
And put it into something like this. So the key is we have progressed a lot. Think about the first cell phone to now, right?
Yeah.
But what's the level of understanding? Has the understanding progressed? Because the technology has. But have we progressed with the technology? This is a smartphone, Jake. This does not mean I am a smart user. Okay?
I've seen that too many times. Yeah.
Well, think about it. What all could you do with this? This is a computer. Mm-hmm. This is a 1 terabyte hard drive. Mm-hmm. My first computer was 1 gig.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not much difference in size, right? So we've progressed a long way in technology. Unfortunately, our understanding, application, and implementation of that technology has not. That's why I laughed when you said there was some resistance. I said, there's still resistance.
Yeah. So one thing before we get into the nitty gritty about things, I want to ask about user application. So there's been, in teaching fire classes and various classes, there's some resistance on, what's the best way to utilize the camera? We only have one camera. Does the officer have it? Does the junior guy have it? Should everyone have a camera? Are we better off with just one person to have a camera? What's the Andy Starnes feedback? I have my opinions, but I'm interested to hear yours.
Well, I have an opinion and then I have data. So
okay,
I'll give you my opinion. I'll give you my opinion first. One, if you have a family and you get in a car, you don't just have one seatbelt, do you? Right? Yep. Everybody gets the same requirement for safety. Every firefighter gets on a fire truck has PPE and SCBA. When you and I came on, past devices were somewhat there. And then all of a sudden they became integrated. Why? Because we weren't smart enough to be trusted with our own safety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So should every firefighter have a thermal imaging camera? Yes. I quote one of my mentors, Chief Lamb, said, every firefighter should have a radio, but every fourth one should have a battery. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Well, if you have this and it's on a task-oriented firefighter who's on a nozzle or searching, this is out of their way. Yeah. This is a situational awareness camera. You have a decision-making camera. The bigger ones, they're more durable, bigger screen. Some of them are faster. That's for the boss. So your questions should be correlative to the context. How many people do you have going into a fire, right? Are they going to be working together or are they going to be separated? If they're going to be separated, then they both got to have cameras. If they're working together, it's okay for one to have a camera and one not. But what I want to avoid is what I call filmmaking firefighters, where they're all walking around looking at cameras. That creates problems, right?
That's the best argument I've heard against it, right? Is that you got to be aware of your situation, not tunnel visioned into your camera, right?
I can give you data on what it does to you if you stare at it too much, and it's not pleasant. And it's actually from the FAA about the human eye, lights, and other things. But firefighters in general need thermal situational awareness. I'm not talking about situational awareness that Dr. Gasaway preaches. He's the genius, the guru on that. But they can't see the bad things coming because we're in low to zero visibility and we're wearing PPE that has sensory deprivation built into it. And in addition to that, with 1 degree core temperature elevation, auditory exclusion starts to occur in the human body. Heart rate goes up, things start to go away, and you can't feel pain until it's too late. And then when you get to a certain point, you lose the ability to feel pain. So a device that allows you to see the problem, not accurately, but see the problem and help you fix the problem is highly recommended. The problem is firefighters say they can't afford it. Brother, this is $1,200. My new iPhone was $1,600.
Yeah.
Third world countries that don't have running water have cell phones, smartphones. So you're telling me the U.S. Fire Service, and I deal with this on a regular basis. Oh, they don't have a camera. I'm like, all right, let me find out who they are. Are they impoverished? If they're not, then what this is not a priority, is the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I see that is, who should have it? I'm going, why don't you have situational awareness cameras on every firefighter for personal safety? And why don't you have one decision-making camera for every riding position who's a supervisor? And eventually it's going to be mandatory, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we're within a 5-year window where, unfortunately, our consensus standards are written in blood.
Yeah.
And when we get to that point, that's when it's going to happen. And the departments that are already moving forward will be ahead of the curve. But I would say less than 10% of the fire service actually prioritizes thermal imaging, just like behavioral health. So that's my answer.
So I don't know if I don't want to pigeonhole you, but so say you're a volunteer company, right? You have your one engine and you have your 5 guys responding or whatever happened to show up to the truck. You have one camera. Do you give it to the junior guy or do you give it to the senior man?
Do you let your kid tell you the directions when you go down the road, or do you let the grown up?
Yeah. I just have heard the argument that, like, if one person's going to get lost, it's most likely going to be the person that's the most junior, and they might benefit from the extra orientation.
That's not true. There's many captains and senior people. The senior people die in fires all the time because the good ones are inside.
Yeah.
Okay. So the senior people are the ones that get killed because they're the ones doing their job, and they're also trying to watch out for those junior people. Mm-hmm. And the junior people, they end up getting, in many cases, they sacrifice their lives for those junior people. However, if you're the boss, your job is to lead, guide, and direct. Can you do that without any visibility whatsoever? The flashlight only goes so far, low to zero viz. You need a device to help you do that. And if I'm on a nozzle, I don't need a TIC in my hand. I want one for a backup, but my primary goal should be doing the task, right? And if I'm searching, I need both hands. I can't do that with a camera in my hand, and it's counterintuitive. So the boss needs to be able to lead, guide, and direct. And the boss should, if they're inside with the crew, not stand outside in the front yard with the camera while they're in there operating in the dark. And these should be on every firefighter for another reason. Hey, I'm on the nozzle. You break away to search. I can't hear you or see you anymore. I check conditions. I turn around and go, TIC's right over there. Right? Yeah. Okay. I can regain orientation. And then it's 325 grams. It's not going to weigh me down. Right?
Yeah.
So, but the boss is responsible. And I think what I see in a lot of these old school departments, a lot of the senior firefighters go, here, kid, you carry this camera. I'm old school. I don't need that. That is shirking your responsibilities, and that's absolute ignorance, and it's negligence, in my opinion, when you start looking at the data. So whoever's responsible for that crew should have a camera. My ultimate goal is everybody has one. There's no excuse for it. But just because you have one doesn't mean you should be staring at it all the time, just like this screen will get you in trouble if you stare at it.
Yeah.
You stare at this too much, you can also get in trouble. So, that's my opinion is how it should work.
Yeah.
I'm working on that.
Talk to me a little bit about, I'm sure in your business you've seen a glimpse into the future. Well, talk about, augmented reality or potentially mask integrations. Do you see a future in that, or do you think that that's way off in the future, much more than, I know some systems have been working on doing that, but I haven't seen one personally that is ready to go into a fire.
In Japan in 2018, they had a mask-mounted TIC. Or actually, no, in 2016 was the Scott site. 10 years earlier, Japan had a mask-mounted TIC. The problem I have with mask-mounted or SCBA integrated things, they're great ideas, but terrible implementation. There is a huge disconnect between the engineer and the customer. For example, how many firefighters do you know cannot see up close? They have to hold their cell phones or glass. So where is that screen? Right here. What's the contraindication of that device? No prescription glass eye inserts, right? Okay. It's a thumbnail-sized screen designed for situational awareness, and it defeats the purpose because until they make an NFPA certified one, any camera that is a 9 hertz refresh rate is a detriment to a firefighter.
Interesting.
Because, well, your eye sees 27 hertz. So you're talking about something that's 3 times slower, and you're going to move your head slow if you're dying or trapped or lost or disoriented or trying to find your buddy. I had a manufacturer tell me firefighters don't move their head that fast in the fire. That's why 9 hertz is okay. I fixed that problem pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Turnout gear in a hot box and walk away from him. He starts spinning his head around going, where'd you go? I'm like, why can't you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the disconnect. You design a product that you don't use and you don't go in that context and you don't understand their challenges. I took one engineer and he said this image was good enough on one particular device. I turned the lights off and said, I'm going to turn this camera on and pick it up in front of your face and I'm going to count to 10. And if you can't find the door, you're dead. And he couldn't find the door. I said, go back and work on it some more.
Wow.
So that the issue is these iterations that they first come out with, great concept. But you ever been told never buy the first generation of anything?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So there's some of that. Some of this stuff is got bells and whistles on it that sound great until you take it into a fire and realize, moisture is kryptonite to a thermal imaging camera. No manufacturers come out with a way to simply just do this, clean the lens. Industrial cameras have heaters built in them to defrost the lens. As soon as a helmet-mounted or mask-mounted one that has a lens that you can't clear with your gloved hand gets fogged up, you're done. It's like turning the lights off on the interstate at night, or your headlights off. You can't see. You're done. So they're not thinking about that, nor are they testing it for the contraindications. It's a great concept, but when you talk about AI and all that, I'm trying to get firefighters to 2013 level of understanding of infrared and how to use them. And they're talking about adding AI, software enhancements, all kind of different things that make the camera better. But they don't even understand that gray-white moving stuff is hot and you shouldn't read the spot temperature in the bottom right-hand corner. It'll get you killed. And there are manufacturers that are adding color palettes that are hazmat focused, not fire focused. And not even telling them that. So yeah, we've got some cool stuff, but unfortunately, it's not been implemented or designed properly.
So how does a manufacturer then decide the cache of sweeteners to add to their camera? How do they decide what is worth adding and what's extra that is unneeded? Is it purely like how much you want to spend on it, or is it literally like these features are not necessary, these features are?
This is the size of a detector inside of a fire service camera. Mm-hmm. You think there's a whole lot of cost in that? No. Okay. The money is in everything else, right? Mm-hmm. The housing, the screens, and all that stuff, and then the manufacturing of said product. So the bells and whistles are a lot of time advertised to impress a client with stuff they don't need. You ever bought a car that had basic features and you looked at the same car that had all kind of cool GPS and air conditioned seats and all that, but they're the same car, but one has a lot of stuff that you may not need. There are manufacturers that push, I looked at one that had 13 different color palettes. One has 23 color palettes, only one of which are used in a fire. That's a disconnect trying to wow an uneducated consumer, right, with stuff they don't need. And as long as the consumer stays uneducated, which thus far the fire service has, they will continue to buy things they don't need because a salesperson and engineer says, this will help you, this is great. And we never tested this in a fire, by the way. We've never bet someone's life on this. Some of these cameras have never been field tested in a fire before they're released to the fire service.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You think that's a good idea? I mean, they got to crash test a car before you get it. So the concern is, are these applications or bells and whistles fireground specific and will help you? If they'll start designing that for that, then yeah. And the money is not, they can pay a software engineer to make it do all kind of cool stuff for a lot less money. The money is in the core, making a better core and making a better housing, and then battery issues like, we got the lithium ion fight. There's a new battery called graphene that doesn't blow up. There's things like that are coming out. So that's where innovation comes, but you're going to see things like this device uses something called mixed gain mode. No other manufacturer does that. So no having to decipher the image. The pixels just switch on their own. Mm-hmm. So innovation is making this device simpler, easier, better image clarity, and they give firefighters what they need. You think about how many calls you run that are not fire related. Think about odors of smoke, electricals, car accidents. When you try to find a small heat source, wouldn't it help you to have something that highlights that problem earlier?
Absolutely.
Probably. Yeah. So a fire mode is beneficial and an investigative mode is beneficial. What if they came up, and I'm going to give away a secret if the manufacturers list, what if they came up with a way to develop a camera that actually would detect in low ambient temperature environments where there's a high moisture content when firefighters get disoriented, which is where a lot of them do. And there are devices that do that. They're just not fire related. But they're not thinking about that. Look at the data, look at the deaths, and look at what they need, and then make a device that matches that, and quit trying to sell me things that has the same cake with different frosting on it that I don't need, nor do I like. Right?
Yeah. So give me this. Say I'm a purchaser for my department, right? Say I'm a purchaser for my department. What are the things I want to look in at a camera if I'm making a purchasing decision? What statistics do I need that thing to do? What things can I go down a spec sheet and say, I want it to have this, 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 and this? Is there is it a clear-cut thing across the board?
How many of your fire departments you've been involved with, when they buy a fire truck, they have a spec, right? Spec gear, spec hose. Every year, the fire departments, when they get to the end of their fiscal year, I get panic phone calls 1 month before their fiscal year budget ends. And this is the conversation I get. Hey, we got $25,000 to spend or we're going to lose it. The chief says I got to buy a camera. Which camera should I buy? I'm like, click. They're like, hello? Did you hang up on me? I'm like, yeah. I have spent a lot of time developing a simple process for firefighters to follow. And that it's literally on my website. It's on YouTube. I even made a webinar explaining. They won't even watch it. There's the same people that say, I stretched a mile of ladders this month, a mile of hose. Well, can you watch a 1 hour video and follow these steps, please? And they don't want it. They want it. It's laziness. They just want to be told, buy this one.
Yeah.
I bet you if you bought the wrong car for your family without doing your homework, that wouldn't go over real well if you bought it for your spouse or whoever, right? So do your homework. But I have a spec sheet that lists it, and it's based on NFPA 1801 criteria, which is the standard for how you build a camera, durability, image quality, all that stuff, right? And then it actually requires you to test it in a live fire environment. There's fire departments that turn these on in an ambient temperature environment and say, this one looks better, buy that, end up very disappointed, injured, or worse. And they're fooled. So some manufacturers specifically set their camera up to look good right here. But when you go to fire, it looks like garbage.
Yeah.
And then, in my opinion, that's deceptive. But if they base it on a singular moment without testing it, they're throwing away taxpayer dollars and possibly injuring you, because then you go in and use it and you don't like it. So therefore, the next fire you go to, you're not going to use it. And then how long does your department keep it before you know it? 10, 15 years? So we have a spec sheet for it. It's on my website. It's called Instructions for Purchasing Implementation Criteria. We give out the steps. We tell them how, especially if they got to buy NFPA cameras, we give them the data to do it. It is literally 1, 2, 3, 4. Here you go.
Well, we'll get that from you. Make sure that's linked in the description of this episode. We'll make sure that's linked so that anyone that's watching this, if they want to do that, they can find it easily. We'll get them sent over to that. So I don't want to miss an opportunity to talk to you about hazmat usage of thermal images before I let you go. Because we've been talking, but we're getting close to the end. I don't want to miss the opportunity. So without getting into the nitty gritty, I want to just give you the ball and say, what do people not understand about the usage of thermal imaging cameras in a hazmat environment? What do they get right? What do they get wrong? What do you see as a problem?
The problem is most of them are trying to use a hammer for everything. Contractor has all kinds of tools, right? You cannot use a fire service thermal imaging camera in a hazmat environment and expect to detect everything. They are not designed to detect gases, number one. They're designed to detect long-wave infrared radiation coming off surfaces within a very narrow range of 7 to 14 microns. You look at gases, they're all over the map. FLIR makes about 10 different cameras for optical gas imaging, and they don't detect temperatures. They detect atmospheric attenuation so you can outline the vapor plume or vapor cloud. And each one of those cameras has a specific coating for a spectral filter within a specific range to pick up like anhydrous ammonia, methanes, things of that nature. And some of them, by the way, there are certain gases they can't detect without adding what they call calibration gases to try to mimic that. So not all gases are detected even in the industrial market. If you want to see pretty cool cameras like that, look up Shell, BP, Marathon, all that. They have what they call LDAR teams. These guys and gals go around all day and look at leaks or look at fittings and pipes. If they have a small leak, it costs them millions of dollars, or a fire, right? A GF320 is a good example. That's a $120,000 camera. Remember the old cam corners you look through the tube and look down?
Yeah.
They look like that, right? But they're really expensive, and some of these are cryogenically cooled. You think the fire department is going to give you and me a $120,000 camera and put it on a fire truck the way we treat things?
No way.
Probably not. So they make different versions of gas detectors now that are infrared based. But fire service cameras, where I see people, they try to use them as X-ray vision. They think they can look at every container and see fluid levels. You can't. It's about the context. Tom Zinn said it best. You need to know more about what you're looking at than what you're looking through. If it's a cryogenic container that's super well insulated, probably not going to pick up anything. However, wherever it leaks at, if it's cryogenic, if it's super cold, whatever's behind it, it's going to detect that background and it's going to show a cold spot. It's not going to show the vapor cloud. So I can see the effects of the leak. Like I saw y'all posted one about anhydrous ammonia. Well, anhydrous means without water. Well, when it mixes with water or vapor in the air, it produces a water vapor cloud, which blocks out any energy coming through that because water is a solid surface to the camera. So you can't see through water with a camera. Matter of fact, water is kryptonite to a camera. So the biggest problem I see is they think they're picking up gases with it, and they're not. They think they're going to detect the leak with it. They're not. They may see effects of the leak, like you go to the bars and they have the CO2 tanks in there on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might see a cold spot behind it on the wall, but you're not going to see the carbon dioxide itself, right? So that's the problem, is they're trying to use this device in the wrong context. With proper training, you can cheat and find ways around it, but you're not always going to see that. If you really want to get into this, just Google optical gas imaging on YouTube and watch the videos. It's shocking what they're doing and what we're not doing. And then there's ultrasound technology. There's cameras now that use sound to produce an image looking for leaks. Those are really cool, like 120 microphones. There's all kind of stuff out there in industry, but in the fire service, it's all about this.
Yep.
There's not enough profit in a standard fire service market for them to make a specialized tool. But in your industry, there's a lot of specialized funding for hazmat teams.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm surprised I have not seen hazmat teams getting OGI cameras. I know of 2 departments that are looking at it right now, are using UAS platforms with OGI sensors on them to fly over like rail car incidents and pinpoint the leak and see where the vapor cloud is going and say, hey, that's going towards a school, right? That's bad.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be done. And there needs to be education along with the technology, because never underestimate the power of an uneducated consumer to improperly use your product and then be mad at you for when it doesn't work. They're taking, I've had friends of mine call me and say, hey, this guy in this hazmat class said this camera detects gases because it has a hazmat mode. I'm like, excuse me? Because the camera had an iron bow color palette that's often used in hazmat cameras. That's a manufacturer deceiving the customer. So you better look into the contraindications of fire service TICs before you tell somebody you can use it for it. EV batteries is another one. They're using them to point at the battery casing and read the spot temperature. You know, these cameras can be off by several hundred degrees, hundreds. And you're looking at an insulated container. When you get done with this podcast, look up Surprise, Arizona, the energy storage system explosion.
Okay.
They were there for 4 hours when that hazmat team approached that ESS box, and they opened the door to the box, and the captain on the hazmat team said, I have 104 degree reading on the TIC. There was this weird vapor cloud that came out right after that.
Yeah.
3 minutes later, it catapulted him 75 feet through a chain link fence, blew his face piece and his helmet off all 3 members who had their stuff on buttoned up, knocked him unconscious, nearly killed them 3.
Wow.
And all he saw was 104 degree reading on a TIC. It's not a thermometer. So the improper use of these devices is actually hurting us in implementation, because we're not educating our firefighters. We're handing it to them saying, go over and see how hot that is. No. Not without training. I wouldn't put your kid in the car and say, go figure it out. The interstate's that way. Here's the keys. Good luck. Mm-hmm. We need to train before we put such devices into their hands. Otherwise, actually, we're going to be complicit. If you think about it, if a firefighter dies in a fire and you didn't train them how to wear an SCBA and they improperly use that SCBA and dies, who's liable? Who is? Yeah. And I think that's what I honestly think Tragedy and litigation is how the fire service is going to be made to change, not because we're smart enough, but we'll be forced to.
And it's unfortunate that all too often it's written in blood. I think you talked about that earlier, but all too often the changes are written in blood. It's too bad that's afraid. The way.
I just don't want it to be another good person like you who's doing what they think is the best they were told by their organization, trusting their organization, only to find out they were misled. Mm-hmm. And that's not just wrong. We're responsible for their death. We're supposed to know better, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to tell people the good and the bad and the ugly of thermal imaging cameras. Like I do a portion of our class now where I take them to the third floor of the container after we burn on the first floor, and there's so much moisture, so much smoke up there, the camera's absolutely useless within 1 or 2 meters or 3 to 6 feet. Sorry, I've been in Poland. I have to switch from meters to Celsius Fahrenheit. But they realized it doesn't work. There's too much moisture. It's like driving in a blinding rainstorm with your windshield wipers off. You can't see.
Yeah. So
I have to show them when it works and when it doesn't, because I don't want them to find out the hard way and go, that bald guy from North Carolina lied to me. No, I don't want that to happen. So
yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. Like, your insights are very important, and I hope that people will take this conversation, go back and do their research, sign up for some classes. Why don't you let them know where they can get in touch with you, where they can get in touch with your instructors and see you speak?
Sure. Well, we're all over social media, number one. You can't find us something's wrong because we have search engine optimization. We do a ridiculous amount of social media. But the easiest way to get a hold of us is go to insighttrainingllc.com and hit contact us. It goes right to mine and my wife's email. And then my instructors, my lead instructors, all have their own personal pages through the company. Thomas Anderson, Joey Baxa, Tim Mills, John Lightley, Reagan Underwood. And then I have a cadre of instructors who are also posting stuff. But we have Facebook. We have 7 different Facebook pages. We have a private group for those who want to go like deeper called Tactical Thermal Imaging. If you search Facebook, you'll say group and you hit join. You have to answer 2 questions to prove you're not a robot. And all we do is answer questions and share files for free. Our YouTube channel is probably one of our best resources. That has been used by departments now for training resources. There's hundreds of hours of webinars, free training stuff organized by playlist, subject, brand. The stuff I was telling you about testing cameras, there's a webinar on there on how to evaluate cameras that takes you straight to our lesson plan on our website. The YouTube and the website are both linked. But we're on all the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. And we post 1 to 3 times a day, depending on algorithms and when it should go out. And we do a lot of these. We just did the scrap with Corley Moore last night. We're here with you today, and we released one from Priority Traffic Podcast just a few days ago. So awesome. We stay quite busy, and then we travel. We do on average, like this year, we'll do almost 100 classes this year.
That's busy.
We're blessed, and but we all want to keep our marriages and our family and not get divorced because we're being busy. So
I know that
we want to help, but we don't want to be replaced. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, thank you again for talking to me. Hopefully I'll have you again on in the future. We can talk some more. But once again, thank you. I'll make sure we get all the links in the description below so that they can find you. And thanks again for joining me today.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate the opportunity.
For sure.